In the late 1100s, in a small farming village in Suffolk, England, something happened that the people there could never explain. The village was called Woolpit. It wasn't a place where strange things happened. It was quiet fields, livestock, long days, and slow seasons. The kind of place where everyone knew everyone, and life passed without surprises. One afternoon, workers were checking wolf traps on the edge of the fields. Deep pits dug into the ground to stop wolves from coming too close to the farms. And in one of these pits, or just beside it, accounts differ stood two children, a boy and a girl, thin, frightened, holding onto each other, and their skin was green, not sickly, not bruised, green like leaves, like a color that didn't belong on a human body. Their clothes were strange, too woven from fabric no one recognized. The stitching was too fine, the style was unlike anything local. And when the workers spoke to them, the children stepped back, whispering to each other in a language no one had ever heard. They were taken to the home of a local landowner. People tried to feed them, to give them bread and meat, but the children refused everything. They cried. They pushed the food away. They clung to each other. The villagers didn't understand until someone brought them raw beans, straight from the stalk. The children grabbed them and ate them immediately, as if they hadn't eaten in days. They slowly began to adjust. The fear faded. The girl was the stronger of the two. The boy was quiet, shaken. Even when safe, he acted as if he was still listening for something, like he expected to hear someone calling him back. He wouldn't last long. He grew weaker, even as the girl began to learn English. Some say he died of illness. Some say he simply stopped trying to live. The girl stayed. She grew. She worked. She learned their words, their customs, their world, and when she finally could speak well enough to explain where they came from, the answer was nothing anyone expected. She didn't say they came from another land across the sea. She didn't say they came from another kingdom, or another tribe, or another war. She said they came from a place called St. Martin's Land, a place that existed beneath ours. A land where the sun never shinned, where everything was twilight, where everyone was green, and she said they didn't mean to leave, they just stepped out, and the world they stepped into wasn't theirs. When the girl learned enough English to speak clearly, the villagers asked her about the place she came from, not out of curiosity, but because nothing about her story fit into the world they knew. And she didn't hesitate. She said their home was called St. Martin's Land, a place where the light was dim, not dark, not bright, just a constant twilight. Like the last moments of evening, stretched across every hour. The sky was always soft. The plants were a darker shade of green. The rivers moved slowly, like they were heavy. Everything felt quiet. Everyone there looked like she did. Skin tinted green. Not sick, not unnatural, just normal. The villagers asked why the people there were green. She didn't understand the question. To her, they were not the strange ones. We were. She said they did not know of the sun the way people here do. The world she came from didn't have sunrise or sunset. Only a faint glow, like light, filtered through deep water. One day, she and her brother were tending their family's animals near the edge of their land. There was a sound. She never described it clearly, only that it was like a bell or a distant call, something that you don't hear with your ears so much as feel in your chest. They followed it. There was a tunnel, a passage, narrow, cold, damp, like a cave, but not made by hands. They walked through it, holding onto each other. She said the sound guided them, even when they could no longer see. And then, suddenly, they were out in the open dot in sunlight, real sunlight, too bright, too warm, too open. They collapsed near the wolf pits, and that's where the villagers found them. She didn't know how far they had traveled. She didn't know if the tunnel still existed. She didn't know if their world touched this one, or if they had crossed something they weren't meant to cross. The villagers asked why they had left in the first place. She said they didn't. They had only taken a step, a single step, and the world had changed. The girl stayed in Woolpit. She worked in nearby households, learned the language fully, and with time, the green in her skin faded. The only sign of where she came from stayed in her memory and in the way she spoke about silence. The villagers asked her again, years later, if she ever wanted to return. She said she didn't know how. The passage they walked through wasn't a door. It didn't have edges or structure. There was no place to step back to. She said her brother never adjusted. Even before he died, he kept asking for home in a language no one else could understand. His words sounded softer than English, rounder, like a song spoken quietly. She remembered their village, St. Martin's land was small, she said. Fields, paths, homes built close together. Not a mythic kingdom. Not some grand civilization. Just people living a different life under a different sky. But there was one thing she repeated every time they asked her about it. She said that their world was right next to ours. Close enough that they could hear sounds from here. She said that sometimes a faint bell rang in the distance. A sound that came from this side. She said that maybe there are places where the two worlds overlap, where someone could step without meaning to, where distance is not measured in miles, but in direction, not north or south, not up or down, just over. The records we have of this story come from two chroniclers, Ralph of Coggeshall and William of Newborough. Both were respected. Both were known for skepticism. Both criticized others for writing exaggerations and myths, and yet they both wrote this story down as fact, not as a miracle, not as a warning, just as something that happened. There are many stories that try to frighten, many that try to shock, many that try to claim more than they have, but this one doesn't try at all. Two children stepped out of a place they thought was the entire world, into another world that had always been right beside theirs, a step sideways, and everything changed. That's all, and that is what makes it stay.